What's up? What's new in the world? Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Thanks for joining me today. You know, I guess I'll just get right into it. So, because of previous conversations we've been having, and the Black Manosphere having real conversations about money and wealth and family formation and all of that, and the women, and we're not gonna go too much in on women today. We're not gonna pathologize them. We're gonna really talk about kind of the environment that's helping to cause some of the delusion and the insanity going on with young people in general. Um, yeah, so because of some of the conversations we've had with different people, FD Signifier, because of one of the recent videos, Jason Black, the Black Authority, put out on his channel called The Business, because of those conversations that have been going on for the past, give or take, couple weeks now. I really wanted to get to why certain millennials, maybe younger Xers, Gen Z sound the way they do, and well, sound the way we do. I am a millennial. Um, and what's going on in the overall environment to cause us to sound the way we do. For those of you that read the description, we're going to be lightly, because I kind of want to make this a series. I plan on making a video or going live on Sunday morning at 10 so that we can, kind of deep dive into this class conversation going on in the Black community, or that's not going on in the Black community but maybe should be. Oh, let's pause and give our kind of what we got going on. Like, share, subscribe, hit that super chat. And okay, so we've been listening to Black women and just different women talk about manifesting, leveling up, Black women in luxury. We've been listening to certain brothers talk about Bitcoin, and I'm not just talking about like serious investing in Bitcoin, using investing in like any type of cryptocurrency almost as a religion, which once again, coping mechanism. We've been hearing people talk about investments, second and third and maybe even fourth streams of income. And once again, I'm not railing against these people. I am speaking about it as if we're speaking about these things as if they're religions, right? It's a coping mechanism because things have gotten so unstable, right? Things are so precarious that now young people are just grabbing for straws, right? And the way that kind of talking about manifest, the way that manifests in your society is young people not wanting to have children and not wanting to get married, not buying homes, right? Barely even dating. And once again, this is before we start talking about women and all this other stuff, right? So, wow, people around me are just not driving. Right? So, yeah, so the environment is the way it is because of these outsized factors. You got to remember, like, the Xers had the rug pulled from under them. The millennials never had the rug, and the Gen Z are were hit with gig economy as they graduated high school, right? So like Xers, millennials, and Gen Z just got, they got pinned. I'll say it like that. I want to be a little bit more explicit, but today we're gonna try to refrain from the profanity. I think I gave y'all enough profanity the other day. But yeah, they got screwed. We'll say that they got screwed, right? Like I said, Xers got the rug pulled from under them. Millennials didn't have the rug anyway. They were told to go to college and accumulate, debt to make a stable living. And Gen Z are now being hit with full on, go start your own business, go become a content creator, go try to piece together gig economy jobs and try to make it work, right? So, and this, I've had different conversations with some of the older brothers in this space about the background noise or some of the subtext of what was told to us as millennials, right? And Gen Z, I would argue also. A lot of not Xers, boomers walked into adulthood getting married and having children and starting families, right? That is not how many of them, but definitely the overall society, raised millennials, and I would argue Xers, right? Excuse me, Gen Z. Millennials and Gen Z were raised that family formation and all of that is at the finish line of adulthood. So it's not that you walk into adulthood with a wife and children. No, that's reserved for people that got their stuff together. So we're not talking about oops babies, and we're not talking about whatever a modern day gunshot wedding would be. We're not speaking about that. We're talking about doing it, air quotes, the right way. And doing it the right way entails going to college, starting your career, dating around, meeting the air quotes right one, and then getting married. This is well into your at the earliest your late 20s, at the latest maybe your early 40s, right? And then maybe people will start looking at you weird after 45. And what that's done is and I'm sorry, y'all. It's caused a lot of problems because millennials aren't reaching this promised land, right? Millennials aren't reaching this kind of perfect adulthood for them to have the children, from them to get married, right? And this is before we even factor in race, right? Something I said to FD Signifier, from what I've heard from Jason Black, the recent video Angry Man did about, essentially working class men not deserving attractive women. Something that you see is and I said it in a previous video, it's a weird form of Darwinism mixed with like eugenics mixed with like a social dystopia. What we're seeing is the people that are getting married and staying married are working in that top 20, maybe 25% or so. These are the people not only getting married, but staying married. I would argue gone are the days of everyone kind of participating in this and it really being somewhat of a character flaw is the reason why you got divorced, right? It's either the woman that's something up with her, or the man there's something up with him, or there's something up with both of them that caused that wedding or that marriage, to dissolve. We're not in that place anymore. Precarity, economy, people's financial situation, people's educational background, their familial background play way more of a factor, right? So we are living in a time of legacy, but not in a time of legacy that a lot of us think of. It's legacy wealth. And because your granddad had it, which means your dad had it, they passed it on to you with connections and money. And even if you have character flaws, and maybe even severe character flaws, if they're not the worst character flaws on the planet, you could see yourself getting married and staying married because your wife, if she can't get a hold of that money, knows there's nowhere better to go. And yes, she could torpedo the marriage still. Don't get it misconstrued. That still can happen. But the likeliness it's not as severe as your regular Joe Smo $40,000, $45,000 a year guy. And that environment is what I would argue is causing us to have this manifest thing coming from women, this Bitcoin and you need 4 and 5 streams of income coming from men, the level up culture, the black women in luxury culture. I mean, Kim from For Harriet, that's Kim Foster, she said something that I really agree with. When she covered black women in luxury, right? Part of her video was saying, with all the precarity going on in the environment, in our society, it's interesting seeing all the precarity and kind of being post-COVID and seeing, or at the time it was kind of in the middle of COVID, and seeing black women engage in this black women in luxury thing. in a bit of her, like she kind of skimmed over it as if it kind of in a conspiratorial manner, and I somewhat agree with her if that's the road she was going on, where it almost seems like it's being pushed on the outside. And I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way on the right, but it's kind of what we saw. I put it in similar lane of kind of what we saw with 90 some odd 94% of black women voting for the Democratic Party, or voting at least for Hillary Clinton a little bit after that, right? Because they don't want to horrendous voting record with black women. And I'm only using that as an example to say that's what I see going on with this black women in luxury thing, right? Which is a few people from the bottom, or what we consider the bottom. This is where intersectionality comes in. Black plus woman, right? Or black intersect with women, which traditionally is the face of like the bottom in our society. We're gonna use them, in like a handful of them that have a couple of nice things, and a handful of them with degrees that they can actually do something with, and we're their success to show that ability is still a thing in this society, right? I'm driving. Once again, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Super chats will be read out loud. But yeah, right, like that's the environment where we have a lot of people speaking about this manifest, level up, 3 and 4 streams of income, Bitcoins and different cryptocurrencies. And for a while, and I don't know if the rest of you remember this going on, and it was kind of sick actually. For a while in the black community, when something heinous would happen to a black person by the state, at the hands of the state, we're talking about police brutality, there was this undertone of maybe this wouldn't happen if that person had money. And in a weird way, at least to me, Mr. Z, it came off as lightweight blaming the person for their own death because they weren't industrious enough, right? It came off as lightweight blaming the person for their own death. We're not even talking about respectability yet. We didn't even go there. We're speaking about that person lightweight deserving, and yes, I know the words I'm using right now. I'm conscious of them. Lightweight deserving that because maybe they didn't try hard enough to be rich enough, right? They didn't have the money bulletproof vest, right? They didn't have the money cloak around them. And that was a very sickening time. And there's still black people that engage in that when a George Floyd happens, right? Or when a Philando Castile happens, or when an Eric Garner happens. We still have people kind of, you know, speaking to that a little bit. Not so much as like 2015 and 2017 and 2018, but it's still going on a little bit in our environment, right? And I think that's a coping mechanism. That's coping with the position this society puts you in as a black person, and then as a working class black person, or a poor black person, or working poor black person, or a lower middle class black person. And I want us to be careful with that, especially black men. Some of the things we say in our moments of frustration to each other, right? And remember, this is the internet, so you do have 15 and 16 and 17 and 20-year-olds listening in. It may not be a lot. They may be watching music videos and videos about their favorite video game and whatnot, yes. But there's a couple of them that do enter this space, right? And I want us to be mindful of that, right? Because that's, at least for me, that's what Mr. Z hears when I hear black people speak in this way. I mean, for those of you that have kind of heard some of this manifesting talk, it's insane. If you say 555 3 times in this way and you chant in that way, then, you know, it works for me. Then, you know, positive things that happen for you. We're there now. I mean, we literally have black women playing with the ancestors and these different African religions and this, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that stuff on its face. I am Haitian descent. There are Haitians that practice voodoo. I'm not gonna defecate on my ancestors, and I'm not gonna say it doesn't have certain properties of and it may not make people feel good or feel like they're actually achieving something, and maybe they are. But the way it's come on the scene in the past few years, right? All I hear is like coping. Like white baby Jesus is not doing the job for me, right? And Allah and Muhammad aren't doing the job for me, right? You know, I'm speaking about the Abrahamic religions they're not, I can't get what I want from those things. I've been praying to the God of Gordon Gekko and Milton Friedman for the past 4 decades, and it's not doing anything for me. I've done the Ayn Rand, rugged individuality, pull yourself up by your bootstraps thing. That's not doing anything for me. So let me go mess with this voodoo. Let me go mess with this witchcraft, right? Let me go mess with the Santeria. Let me go mess with that. And all the other iterations of some type of Caribbean or, you know, South American or African, you know, spirituality / religion thing that I barely know. I'm going to lightweight study, right? But because I can't cope with this $250, $300, $350 car loan I have a month that I have to pay, the student loan debt for this 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, 120, 150 student loan debt I have, right? This $1,200 super small box apartment I have in a major city, right? Because I can't deal with that psychologically, let me engage in these other things. And I get it, right? I get it. You know, Jason Black on his channel, The Business. And once again, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Jason Black covered the beginnings of the, like, well, not the beginnings. He covered some of the prices of these apartments in the beginning of one of his streams earlier last week or late last week, right? And yeah, of course, right? Of course. $5,000 for an apartment in Manhattan on average, if I'm not mistaken, from what he was saying, right? $5,000. The cheapest that I think he mentioned was Dallas. I think it was like $1,400 for a 2 or something, a 2-1 or something like that. Right? That's the environment we're in now. And that's why I think that you hear people speaking about these 4 or 5 and 6 different streams of income. I'm exaggerating a bit, right? And you hear the women speaking about manifesting. But on the other side, you hear the other women speaking about I don't dream of labor. And I think I don't dream of labor was the beginning of this somewhat coping mechanism, because that was the women and certain people on the left pushing back on this idea that if you're not working 60 plus hours a week, then you're not really trying. And I kind of agree with them on that one, right? It's as if we don't realize that all the labor rights laws and all the we're not going to be working 7 days a week type thing that are American, and I'm not speaking just about black people, but American forefathers fought all in the 1920s and the late 1800s, right, in the late 19th century and the early 20th century. All the things that they did, organizing, murdered, have never heard of Pinkertons, right? Private police force murdering labor rights organizers, right? Speaking to their local politicians to have these people thrown in prison, thrown in jail, right? So don't ever think that this thing is just a little joke. It's no, you know? So what I'm saying is that's much of the reason why you hear people speaking about, and women mainly, that kind of the women's side of manifesting and stuff like that. I'm saying that's the environment that's producing some of this, right? You remember when gig jobs went on the scene, Uber and Lyft and all of these things, and people were kind of making it seem like this cool way of like not having to do a 9 to 5 and you still making money, and like they didn't tell you you had no safety net and there was no real HR for you and you could be fired at that drop of a hat. And this was even the states that don't have that are not right to work got to skirt around, having a process in letting someone go, firing someone, right? This was their way of kind of skirting around those things. And this is for the states that were not right to work states. So you can imagine how right to work states were able to abuse these things, right? That's the environment we're living in. And for a minute, even black people, yes, some of us in this space, ooh, Mr. Z is about to say it, yeah, I am. We were making these things sound like they were a good thing. Yeah, I said it. Some of your fave content creators, even in this space, were making it seem like that was a good thing, right? They didn't see the precarity they didn't see that this was the system essentially saying, yeah, we throwing you out to the wolves, just make it. And if you don't make it, well, I don't know, go commit S-side and move out the way so we could have another person replace you, right? Some of the brothers was kind of flirting with some of this language in this space. I'm not going to say no names. And definitely some black people outside of this space, right? I remember vividly watching or listening to a Paris Milan video and her keep on saying, well, we live in a capitalist society. We live in a capitalist society. And it's almost as if she was excusing doing or saying whatever insanity just to make a buck, right? And I think that's another thing, right? Notice Mr. Z I'm not about the rage porn. I talk about certain things going on in the environment. I'll speak about some of the insanity coming from some of the women sometimes, right? And even the brothers that engage in that also and help to perpetuate it. But at the same time, what I'm not going to do is just give y'all rage porn for clicks and a couple dollars, right? But the environment does help to exacerbate that. Let's be honest. And shout out to the 18th letter. The 18th letter and me have spoken about some of these content creators on the women's side of the game that made a quick left turn or quick right turn, if you, depending on how you want to phrase it and how you are situated politically. But they made a quick turn. They were kind of speaking this air quotes pro-black stuff, but then when they saw where the bread was buttered, they just went straight rage porn with their content, right? And now they're talking about black femicide every 5 seconds. And all they do is speak about, oh, this black girl felt some black man was following her, and look at this black baby daddy killed his ex baby mama and the kids, and that's all they speak about for the buck. These people themselves have told you, hey, I'm a capitalist out here, right? And we already know, the sociologists have already told us, the research has shown post-COVID, people have lost their minds. Not just black people. I think COVID was the final straw at the end of the previous social contract that we've had for maybe a century or so, right? Starting with some of the labor rights laws, starting with the end of slavery, that slow, very tedious and meticulous fight up from maybe the mid or early, 19th century, up culminating to about maybe COVID. That happened in the Western world, like I said, slowly getting rid of slavery, right? The labor rights laws, right? Men being able to vote, working class men being able to vote, then slowly women being able to vote, then slowly black people being able to vote, right? Black people being, some of the black elites being able to take some of these government jobs, and like slowly but surely, civil rights and all of that, slowly but surely people being unionized, and slowly but surely, yeah, there was a big ass hit in the late 70s and 80s. That's where you get neoliberalism and it started going down again. But I would argue COVID-19 was the end of a general social contract, not just among men and women, but among corporations and the government, corporations and people, right? All of that, the government and people. I think it was the final cut of the last string in a rope, right? And people lost it. People lost it. Mr. Z already told y'all, violent crime was on a 40-year low, right? I think they said violent crime was on a 30 or 40-year low. Entrepreneurship was on a 40-year low before COVID, right? We already know that marriage rates were declining anyway pre-COVID. There was supposed to be a baby boom during COVID-19 because people were at home and ain't nothing to do except, air quotes, Netflix and chill. And actually what happened was a baby bust. People weren't having sex before the fact. They definitely didn't have sex during COVID and even post-COVID. And I think that's what's helping to cause this manifesting in women, because if you're a younger Xer, you're a millennial, you're older Gen Z, even as a woman, you were told, go to school, get your education, you'll meet your husband in your work field, or you'll online date him and whatever. And now some of those women are mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, mid-30s, late 30s, and those things haven't actually manifested. And for the men, we were taught to be egalitarian. Don't be I am man, hear me roar. Go to school, get your money up, become stable, actually become better than stable. And you too can buy a wife. And I said it like that on purpose. Any of the lefties listening in, if you're listening in FD, if you're listening in T Noir or Nappy Headed Hoba, I don't think y'all are, but still. Don't act like the society didn't tell men that you could buy a wife. Low key, ladies, don't act like society didn't tell y'all, hey, don't listen to none of these working class dudes. They're dusties. 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, $60,000, $65,000 men are dusties. Until you realize most men don't even make that. Most men don't even make 60. That's before we even factor in race. We're not talking about black men, we're talking about men. Most men don't even make 60 in America. Most men don't even make 50 in America. Right? Now, I have been seeing, y'all know the number that I've been saying over and over. The median income for women is something like, last time I checked, 25,000, 27-ish thousand when you adjust for inflation, right? Something like that. The median income for women is a year. And then for men, it's something like 40, 42,000. I'm seeing conflicting numbers now where it's showing men's median income is something closer to 48 or 49,000. And women's median income is something closer to 34, 33,000. So I'm going to do some more research before I say that as readily as I used to. Because the numbers are looking recent numbers, and I think that number started showing up in 2020, maybe 2021. So something's funny about the numbers, and I don't know if I believe these new numbers. 1/3 of something like 29% of men make $100,000 a year or more. I'm seeing that, and I'm like, wait a minute, right? Because last time I checked, 1/3 of American households made $100,000 a year or more, and still a chunk of them were living paycheck to paycheck. So all of a sudden now almost 1/3 of men in America make 6 figures or more. Something's not right. And this all happens in the span, because when you Google this, Google will show you 2019 numbers. Men's median income is a little under 40 as of 2019. But then you have different reports coming out from, it's not CNBC or whatever. It's other supposed reputable sources saying a third of men make $100,000 a year. Almost a third. It's like 29%. So I don't know. We're gonna do some more research on that, and we will revisit that later. But either way, I think that's the environment that we're in, where you hear people speaking like this, right? And it's kind of insane. Once again, like, share, subscribe. Excuse me. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the super chat. You know, super chats will be read out loud. But yeah, so this environment is kind of, right? You know, and for those of us that are millennials and we know how to articulate ourselves with this, that's the environment we were raised in. And so and you notice Mr. Z gives, you know, I give women an out. I give them a rhetorical out. Their anger and their rage is so great that they don't even see it or take it. And I definitely understand as a black man what we were sold, especially as a mid-30s-year-old black man, what we were told, the background music, right? The theme of our age group, right? 3 and 4 streams of income. You better be an entrepreneur. You better be industrious, right? Ain't nobody gonna give you nothing, right? Solo dolo, like all of these things. Got it out the mud, all of these stupid one-liners. Then you realize, like, one of the top ways people get jobs is through nepotism. And it's not just mother and father and whatever and uncles, but it's also through friendships, obviously networks, right? It's like the number one, if not one of the top 2-3 reasons how people end up getting the job they have is through some form of nepotism. But yet everybody walking around here in the black community talking about they got out of the mud. I'm not going to tell you Mr. Z got out of the mud. That's a lie. That's a lie. Right? All this weird do for self type language. No wonder the women are talking about manifesting and the men are talking about 3 and 4 and 5 streams of income and being industrious and Bitcoin and investing in this and investing in that and moving this and day trading and all of this stuff. And I'm not saying people aren't actually doing that. And I'm not actually saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying we're turning these things into religion, and I see that as a coping mechanism. Because the society is that precarious. The safety nets, the unions, I think there's been an uptick in unions over the past couple years, but pre that, no, right? Once again, look at a brother Chris Smalls with Amazon, right? That was like perfectly emblematic of the society that millennials find themselves in. Younger extras find themselves in. Gen Z, the oldest of Gen Z find themselves in, right? I'm glad we're getting back to speaking for real. I remember, and I'm going to bring up Paris Malone again because I think her and Real Talk with Yanni are like really good examples of like delusional black women when it comes to talking about money and wealth and whatnot. And their subscribers and followers are going to find themselves in a world of hurt if they continue to listen to women like them. If he ain't a baller, if he's not buying like this, if he's not spending like that, don't speak to him. I'm not even speaking about the men. This is not about like trying to trick women into being with air quotes dusties and stuff. I'm saying that is a recipe for disaster. Because there's only so many ballers out there and paymasters out there, right? And so I remember having a conversation with this lady months and months ago. This was when one of the young ladies was found dead in a white man's home. It wasn't Lauren Smithfield. It was the other one, the second one that happened. Her name is right there at the tip of my tongue. Oh my! It wasn't Lauren Smithfield. It was the other sister. The one I covered her too. But yeah, so I spoke to Paris, and we were speaking about. There was a point of the conversation where we were speaking about money, and she said, "All I hear is excuses. All I hear." And remember, she had like some 12 or 1,300 people watching her live, right? Obviously, primarily women. And for her to say all she hears is excuses as a black woman, right? That lets you know. Yeah, Maynard. Yeah. Was it Melissa Maynard? I don't remember if that was her first name, but I think that was her last name. Maynard was her last name. But I can't remember her first name. But yeah, Maynard. Yes. Um, but yeah. So, and thank you for that, Charles Irby. But yeah. So, um, as a black woman, for you to be speaking like that, no wonder you also, and Paris Malone also kind of put a picture up of a African goddess, and like what, you know where I'm going with this. And like, of course, your subscribers and followers are flirting with this stuff more and more because people like you aren't honest. This is why y'all talking about this divine femininity stuff now, and all of these coping mechanisms to cope with the fact that rich, white, elite, hyper-capitalist Gordon Gekko, Milton Friedman. I know Gordon Gekko is a fictional character, but Milton Friedman is real, right? All those people lied to you. They lied to us. They didn't just lie to you, black women. They lied to at least 3. They've been lying. If we're gonna be honest, they've been lying. What did Malcolm X say? Plymouth Rock. We land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. So they've been lying, right? But I'm saying over the past three for Xers, for millennials, and for Gen Z, boomers too. They lied to boomers. They've been lying. But I'm saying, as a mid 30-year-old, I'm speaking for our general experience as the past 3 generations, right? They lied to us. And instead of us addressing the lie of the lie of like upward mobility indefinitely, right? There's never going to be a moment of pause, a moment of lull, a moment of the progression has slowed, right? We're not increasing we're increasing our productivity, but the economy isn't growing at 10%, 9%, 8% anymore. It's growing at 3%, 2.5%, 3.1% maybe. And most of that growth is going to the top 1%, top 0.1%, right? Instead of us being honest about that, we have women like Paris Malone and Real Talk with Yanni calling black men dusties that make $40,000 and $50,000 a year. Which means they're calling at least 40% of white men dusties, maybe also 50 or 60% of Latino men dusties, maybe 20, maybe 25% of Asian men dusties, maybe a third of Asian men dusties, right? Like that's why I'm careful what I say when I say the numbers. Like, imagine me saying most black women ain't ish. When I say that, do I mean 51% most, depending on the topic, or am I saying 85, 90% most? See, you got to be careful when you just thought these slick ass one-liners. What are you saying? Do you realize how that impacts you? And for us content creators, do you realize what you're saying about your subscribers' lives? Because then you're sending your subscribers back out there, telling them, okay, most black men ain't ish. Then what does that mean for their dating lives? Now y'all being just a smidge more honest. Oh, vet all men. But most of these men act like this and this and that and this and that. Negative. So what are you really telling your subscribers and your followers? What are you telling them? No wonder they're engaging in this manifest stuff, this level up stuff, this sugar baby stuff, right? This divester stuff, all of that. No wonder they're doing that, right? No wonder they sound like that, because y'all either don't know or y'all are liars, and y'all just doing it for the bag. And one look at Real Talk with Yanni and one look at Paris Malone, they're doing it for the bag. I'll tell y'all to y'all face. I'm not just talking about online to your face. I mean, I would tell it to you in your face that y'all are liars and cheats. Sounding real old school. You're a liar. Or supreme, you don't know which means all this rage porn to follow. Don't look at the racist, rich, elite, white, hyper-capitalist, man. It's black men and femicide. As I said before when I was covering Real Talk with Yanni and her speaking about Dr. Umar Johnson, you don't even speak about the environment. Why do your subscribers sound the way they do? They in the super struggle. They're miserable. How many of your subscribers and your followers live at home with their parents? Once again, Mr. Z is not defecating on those women for that. I know what that is. I know what environment we live in. How many of your content, I keep on wanting to say content creators, but excuse me. How many of your subscribers and followers live at home with some relative in their mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s? Either their parents or aunt or uncle or older brother or sister. How many of them leave 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, $60,000 in student loan debt? How many of them are pushing a 12-year-old, 15-year-old bucket? That's why they're engaging in manifest language. And instead of y'all addressing that, because in the black manosphere, we address these things. We talk about them. On the left and the right, we talk about them. Now, we have different perspectives, but we at least speak about the environment.